Best of r/Tales from Tech Support episode 147. Subscribe for edit videos daily. Clear the money. I'm sure by the title some of you may know where this is going. But it's short and sweet and it definitely made me chuckle. Quick backstory. Size support for large medical supplier. We have a known issue on the website with item searches turning up blank results. The workaround, until the devs feel like figuring it out, is to clear the cache. A nurse calls encountering the aforementioned issue. I remote in and am trying to clear her cache, but for some reason their internal IT has it blocked. While I am on the phone with her, she calls their IT help desk on a different phone and has us on speaker together. I start telling him what needs to done, etc. I'm trying to do this while the nurse is also, unnecessarily, trying to explain what she needs to do. Then it happens. Me, blah blah blah. Clearing the cache will allow her to search again, yada yada yada. Nurse, she just needs you to clear the money. Me, lets out a very slight chuckle as I try not to literally LOL. Other tech, pure silence because either he didn't hear it or, as I like to imagine, he was having the same reaction as me. So that's it for my morning so far. Fingers crossed nothing too annoying happens today. Have a good day everyone. Thank you. Next. But, it doesn't. No. Long time lurker. On mobile, so please excuse my errors. I work in a small insurance company. I am the only IT support for Windows in my office. I have created multiple spreadsheets in Excel which even some Microsoft professionals have said are nearly impossible. Think database style program in a spreadsheet. Mind you, I am self-taught out of self-defense. I had to learn all this to assist my bosses with running the business. This particular tale involves an Oracle database connection to one of our main programs. The boss I work directly for, D for short, has her perfect baby, Jimmy, working as lead sales. Jimmy, hey OP, I need a report from this system in Excel. Can you work your magic? Me, sure. Give me 25 minutes to modify a different access database to get that. 15 minutes later. Me, hey Jimmy, is this what you were wanting? Jimmy, yeah, but the amount is missing for this column, showing that the employee is entitled to the max amount. Me, if this is a core benefit, employer paid life insurance is, we don't keep track of the max in this program. They would need to refer to their plan documents. Jimmy, can't you just, program it so it puts that amount in? Me, sure, for this group I can. 15 minutes and you can run fun name. Akban get you report. 2 hours later. D. OP, can you come to my office please? I arrived to find D and Jimmy waiting for me. Jimmy, OP, the program you wrote is wrong. Me, sorry, what is wrong? I will gladly fix it. Jimmy, I told you I wanted the max amount in this column. I run the database from D's computer. Me, it is putting the max in for everyone. What is the issue? Jimmy starts the database and runs it using a different client than previously communicated. Jimmy, see, it is putting in the wrong amount. D looks. D, I was in on the emails and he made it clear we need the max amounts for each employee. Me, yes, and I did explain we don't track that in this program. I hard coded the amount for client A. He is running it for client C. Jimmy, can't you get anything right? Just fix it. Me, okay. But since we have over 200 clients, it will take me about 8 hours, and every time you Jimmy change the max for a company it will take an additional 30-45 minutes. D. I think OP has better things to do. The employee can look in their plan documents. OP, go back to your desk. I think you have work to do. And people wonder why I hate my job. Thank you. Next. It's time sensitive but I don't want you. You need to escalate the ticket. No lives were at risk for this problem. Background. I work for a third-party help desk. I got a call from someone telling me they need administrative privileges to download some software. We're able to do this. Due to not normally getting calls from them or needing to remote, and I didn't have the remote software up and running. To do so I have to use Citrix. Ugh, it takes forever for it to load for me. I informed them that it will take some time to load. When it finally loaded, 2 minutes max, I asked them to navigate to a site so they can enter a session key. I've never had to go to a site before, they always just can do it. I've worked here for 20 years. Me. Well, this is how I'm instructed to do this. Them. This is time sensitive and I don't have time for this. Can I talk to someone who know what they are doing? Me. Not allowed to actively transfer calls and knowing it's wound though taken me 30 seconds more to download it. Well, I can do it, but I can get this escalated for you. Them. Yes, this is time sensitive and I need it done. Me. Knowing it could be a few hours if not the next day they would get back to them. Okay, I'll get this ticket escalated for you. TL. Doctor, I could have solved the time sensitive problem in another 30 seconds, but since they asked for it to be escalated it will be a few hours if not tomorrow till it's looked at. Thank you. Next. A successfully skirting of all rules, with a very cooperative customer. Alright, buckle up peeps, the booze has been flowing, and I just remembered this story. Long time lurker, first time post whatnot, you know how it is. Language warning again booze. TLDR at the bottom. The cast. Me. Duh. Dude, the customer. QA. Quality assurance reviewer. DM. Dumb manager. The scene. Like normal, this story is from years ago. I had just been fired from Blockbuster, so I took the next available position, a third-party call center for a large ISP. You know the one everyone loves to hate. It was brutal. Shit rolls downhill, and we were at the absolute bottom of the hill. The company went out of business damn near 10 years ago, so I hope this isn't still happening to customers. So, we're first line support. Customers have to go through us in order to talk to someone that works for the company they pay out the nose for. Customers first was plastered all over the hallways. Now, I had the dream shift of 4x 10-hour shifts, split 2 days on, 1 off, 2 on. It was amazing at the time, but near the end of a 10-hour shift, it got a little grating. We also had totally attainable goals and metrics. No more than 4 minutes sign on / off outside your shift. No more than 15 minutes for breaks. 4 calls qualitied, reviewed by a QA person, per week. And the kicker, a 4:15 average call time. Can you fix someone's connectivity in less than 4 inches? I'd like to see you try. Anyway, now for the call. Beep. Dude, hey, before you say your thing, please say you actually work for $ company. Me. Per script. Yes, I represent $ company. How may I help you? Dude, Jesus Christ. Still not a real employee. Can I be real with you? This is my 4th call, and my router isn't the problem. I don't need someone to come out, and I don't want to be put on hold. I run IT for a small company, and have 2 identical laptops. One can connect to the internet, the other one can't. Are you down for trying to find the problem with me? Me. This sounds like an interesting problem, but is out of the scope of your services terms and agreements. My official word on this matter is that I cannot support third-party hardware. However, in the case that we get disconnected, may I have your phone number in the unfortunate case we are disconnected? Dude, interesting, my number is. Me. Just making sure I have this right. Repeats number. Unplugs phone. More on this later. Thank you. Next. The trick. I am a software developer. While not strictly tech support, you seem to like my stories. This story is about one particularly difficult client. A few stapled together papers landed on my desk. I looked up. It was my boss. Boss, good morning, you/Jen. Can you take a look at these requirements and give me an estimate? We might have a new project for you. Me. Sure thing, boss. My boss is the best boss ever. It could be that he is just and rational, wanting to keep me employed because I'm good at what I do, but I don't think so. He is also a great guy. The requirements were nothing special. Collect some data. Display some reports. Stuff like that. Simple. The client was happy with my estimate, so we go meet them. My contact at the client is a tall, large man in his 60s. I am tall myself, but he is towering above me at yet another 4 inches. His handshake is firm, bordering to abusive. When he speaks, the whole room resonates with his bass voice. He has a gravitas that forces you to take him seriously. If this was the Stone Age, he would be the clan leader, and no one would think of questioning it. A true alpha male. Hello, you/Jen, I'm Alpha, he says. Once the room has stopped resonating, and he has given my hand back. I involuntarily compare myself to him. I am lanky with a creaky voice. I had a baby face until I turned 35, and can barely grow a beard. Good thing I base my sense of self-worth on my professional abilities instead. We land the project, and a couple of weeks later we have another meeting. Having built most of what the initial requirements asked for, I was proud to show the prototype of the interface. The client seemed mostly happy, but had some additional features they wanted to add. This went on for a couple of weeks. Each of them in isolation wasn't a big deal, but they started to add up. We call this phenomenon feature creep. The creep of features eventually slowed down, but not until they included a complete customer relationship management tool. Alpha was not happy with the rate of progress. Unfortunately, I did not have much to demo, since I was working on the underlying structure rather than the user interface. I suggested I would add parts of the UI as mockups, non-functional interfaces to make it easier to visualize the end product. This made Alpha happy, but he was still impatient. He suggested that he would make sketches of the screens for me to implement. This was a great idea, because having something visual makes it easier to communicate and reason about the project. It is a tool I have used a lot. A couple of days later, Alpha comes back. He is exited. He has drawn up sketches in PowerPoint for about 10 screens, and even added links on buttons to flip to the target sketch. This is great. I immediately notice inconsistencies. That is okay. It is just a sketch. The whole point is to sort that kind of issues out. So I start building the mock-up UI based on the sketches, but with my own correction. In some places, the sketches are a bit nonsensical. That is okay too. Not everyone is a professional user interface designer. I just adapt the sketches as needed. I show my progress to Alpha regularly, but he seems less satisfied each day. Eventually he makes it clear that he expects me to follow his sketches exactly. There is no room for my interpretation. Whoa. The sketches have suddenly become a specification, inconsistencies and all. What is worse, Alpha has become so emotionally invested in the sketches that I have to argue for each and every change. I can sense that this is a delicate subject, but I feel it is my duty as a professional to try to reason with Alpha. Hey, Alpha, the sketches are great starting points for talking, but not great UI. Perhaps let me do the actual designs. I am a professional. Alpha, PFFFT. I have worked on successful software projects for decades. I think I know what I'm doing. I need a way forward, so I talk with my boss. He is baffled as well, but suggests we try to give Alpha what he asks for, since reasoning with him isn't working. I put aside the UI I had been working on, and start over fresh. When I tried to deduce the underlying data structure from the designs, things like contact info would be wildly inconsistent. Sometimes there would be multiple phone numbers or none. Same with names and email. Physical addresses would have random parts missing. Okay, I let Alpha know about each issue, and built them the way he sketched them out. All of his completed designs were broken and half-baked. Alpha actually seemed happier after this, but he complained about the size of the screens. He had to scroll to see all of each screen. He does not like scrolling. I prodded him about the actual issue. It turned out he had designed the user interface, in PowerPoint, to fit each screen in its entirety on the computer at once. His computer. After more questioning, I found out that he has a 14-inch laptop. The end users have either 24-inch desktop monitors or smartphones. Sigh. Part of the problem is that Alpha has invented his own UI paradigms. Screens would have a fixed layout, with no scrolling. Web apps don't work like that. I believe his decades of experience was from terminal-based mainframe systems, like the airports and banks usually have. Alpha wanted to use input fields to display output data. To make input/output text fields distinct, they would have differently colored borders. I explained that a separate output layout for input/output is much more compact, easier to read, and actually had a hope of fitting on his laptop screen, but he was not interested. He did not know what a pop-up modal dialog was. You know, when you save a file, and a dialog asks for a location and a file name, and you can't continue working until you click OK or cancel? He instead insisted on creating new entries by selecting new in a select box that would also select an existing entry for editing or display. This is bad separation of concerns and leads to horrible, messy code. It is also tricky when there is no existing entry, and you can't detect when the new option is selected, because it is the only one. All of this made the development take at least 4 times as long as necessary. Somehow the project chugged along. After completing all mockups, it was time to add the actual functionality. Keep in mind that nothing so far worked. It was all facade, like a Western movie set. I began to explain the methodology we like, that I personally as well as most of the software industry believes in. Minimum viable project. In essence, you start with something tiny and expand on it, making sure you always have something working. This is important, because the alternative, to plan everything out in detail and start building it all at once very rarely works, is expensive, slow and can't handle changing requirements. And requirements always change. This kind of mismanaged projects can easily kill a company. So as you see, we should start small, and expand the project one feature at a time, to ensure we stay on track. Alpha, no. Since we have little time, it is important that you complete one PowerPoint screen at a time and not go back to it. When it is done, it is done. I absolutely do not want to hear that you are rewriting code that has already been completed. At this point I tried to explain about technical debt and how it affects software projects. Basically, when you write code, you make assumptions, and as you make changes to the code, the assumptions are no longer true, if they ever were, so old pieces makes less and less sense. So the pieces don't really fit together that well anymore. This needs to be fixed, and if you don't, you accumulate technical debt. Once this debt grows too large and you have weird looking code all over the place, and making any changes becomes very time consuming or even impossible. The fix is to constantly rewrite code so it makes more sense. This is called refactoring. But Alpha brushed me off, clearly not interested in excuses. My boss glanced at me with wide eyes. Once Alpha left, I asked my boss about the no rewrite rule. Boss, you do know I constantly rewrite code, right? Boss, yeah, what is his problem? Don't worry about that for now, just do your job the way you decide. This all took a great toll on my mental health, giving me a lot of stress. I got headaches from clenching my jaws, and had to take painkillers every night. Later, Alpha complained about my people skills. My boss, knowing this was bullshit, decided he would be our contact person, shielding me from Alpha. He also contacted the client CEO, to talk about the communication difficulties. The CEO apologized and told boss that Alpha had had a freakout with their own people recently, but had promised to behave. I also found out their hardware person, also managed by Alpha, was on the verge of burning out. Luckily for my mental health, I was needed on Anther project, so an older colleague took over. We spent some time together, bringing him up to speed and solving issues he ran into. During one of these sessions, we ended up talking about my frustration. It was hard, you know. I wanted to do my best. I take pride in my work. But he just wouldn't let me succeed. A wistful air somehow engulfed us, like sunlight through a window on a bleak November morning. He looked into my eyes, searching for something, like he was looking directly into my soul. Older co-worker, I remember what that was like. Feeling proud. Even these days, it still happens from time to time. So how do you handle it? The unreasonable demands? What is your trick? Like a burst soap bubble, the moment was suddenly over and the wistfulness in his voice replaced by a somber tone. Older co-worker, when they won't respect my professional opinion, I just stop giving a shit. In the end, Alpha became so difficult to work with that my boss refused to work with him, and dropped the client. Thank you. Next. You didn't try the brightness buttons before you took the PC apart, did you? I recently started a job at your friendly neighborhood computer repair shop. This particular story revolves around a laptop with the usual C/S machine powers on but screen is black ticket. I received the ticket, powered on the PC to confirm the black screen, and saw an image but with no backlight. I relay this across the desk to my boss, who came over, looked at it, and said yep, that's a bad backlight, and then showed me the procedure for ordering a new screen. Meanwhile I get sidetracked with a different task, and he begins disassembly of the PC. Eventually the part arrives, but boss is out of the office that day, so I'm the only one in the PC repair department. I grab the PC from the back, replace the screen, and get a nice little dopamine shot when I see that the new screen works as intended and I haven't broken anything in the process. So I'm fiddling around with the screen, testing it. I move the mouse, log in and get on the internet. I have achieved victory. Then I mess with the brightness buttons, moving it from its brightest to darkest setting. As the brightness hits its lowest setting, my heart drops. The backlight shuts off. Apparently on this model of PC, you can completely shut off the backlight. I had never considered this to be a possibility. It's totally impossible to read the screen without the backlight, so what use case could anyone ever have for this? I sheepishly text my boss, me, hey, sorry to bother you on your day off, but did you happen to mess with the brightness keys on this ticket before you took it apart? Apparently you can completely shut off the backlight on this model for some reason. Boss, no, I didn't know you could do that. I'm reeling. What if the screen worked the entire time, and we just never thought to hit the increase brightness key? What if we cost this guy all this money, had his computer away from him for all this time, and did all this work because we just didn't think to hit the button to increase brightness? The guy had to have mashed the brightness buttons at least a couple times before he thought to take it into a shop, right? I don't know. We all know how end users are. The PC is already reassembled at this point, so I'll never know if that screen was truly faulty. This will keep me awake for the rest of my life. Cold sweats running down my face. I'll never know. Was that screen really broken? Thank you. Next. I'll just uninstall your Wi-Fi driver while you're using Wi-Fi. So this was today. It's a funny dumb story that wasn't a big issue. Lady is complaining how she can't connect to the VPN for our company but she has internet and everything seems fine. I asked a coworker and he said remote in, uninstall the Wi-Fi driver and reboot. Simple enough. But I forgot the important line he added, make sure she's connected with Ethernet though first so you don't lose connection. Well, you can see what I did. I forgot to check or ask her or tell her make sure you're plugged in while we are in the Skype call, and I remote in, go to device manager, uninstall, and no connection. Skype call drops. Head in my hands. The laptop is essentially in limbo. All she has to do is reboot or refresh so they reinstall, but does she know that? Probably not. My coworker comes in to check on me and goes, you forgot to tell her, huh? With a smirk on his face. Luckily she rebooted and her PC came back online. Hallelujah.